Welcome back to my tutorial series where I'm going through the challenges in my book, The C Sharp Player's Guide. We have been going through the challenges in the final battle, which is the big boss battle at the end of the book. It's made up of 18 parts, 9 of which are kind of this foundation, the core challenges, and 9 of which are expansions. And just a reminder, you do not need to do all 18 of them. I've seen a lot of people do that. That's totally fine if you want to, but that's your choice. The book doesn't demand that you do all 18. There's some options in there. I'm sure you've probably, if you're watching this, you've probably seen the video or you've read the book and you've seen that. But there's the core path where you do all 9 core challenges and then 2 expansions, or you do the expansion path where you go get my version of the code of the core stuff and just build. I think you have to do, I think it's 7 of the challenges. I don't remember for sure off the top of my head, but we are to this gear challenge, and this is probably the biggest expansion challenge that is in here. So this is going to take us probably a little bit of time to do, but I also think it's a very interesting concept. So let's kind of talk through what this challenge is. So first of all, there's this notion of gear, and gear are like every character can equip one piece of gear, and you could imagine this turning into a whole lot of stuff over time. But the main thing right now is that this should give us an extra attack, and some of the gear that is listed in here is the main character, the hero, the true programmer. Let's see, where does it say that? The 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 true programmer should have a sword item that has a slash attack that deals 2 damage. There's these daggers that are in there that skeletons have that reliably deal 1 point of damage. So they're not as good as the sword. But you have to have that item equipped in order to use it. And that creates some challenges. So we're going to need the option to, so we're going to have, well, let me put it this way. There is Every character can have one piece of gear equipped, but there's a pool of other gear that is just laying around. That's a part of each party has their own inventory, and a part of that could be unequipped gear. So that means that a console player, a human player, needs the option to be able to say, I would like to equip this particular item. And if they already have gear equipped, it would swap it. The computer player, on the other hand, has the option to we need it's an AI, and we need the ability to know like when should we equip gear. This has rules in here that if we don't have any equipped gear and there is equipable gear available, we should probably do that 50% of the time. There's some other rules in here about using potions, using items first. So that would be the priority. And let's see. The computer, so once you have gear equipped and it provides an extra attack, then we should the human player, we need to give them the option of which attack do you want to use. For the AI, we are going to just simplify things and say, well, gear based attacks are usually better, so we're going to prefer that. We'll just, if we have gear equipped, we will use that attack. If there's not, we will use our standard attack. There is some stuff in here, so we'll have to make a sword item, and a dagger, and then there's some other stuff down here about the first skeleton should be equipped with a dagger. The other 2 won't start with a dagger, but they will have them in the party inventory, and so they can equip it if they want it. There's also this, which we're going to do here, optional. If you did the game status, which we're already past, consider showing what gear each character has equipped. So we will come up with a way to show that. Now, I am going to move this off the screen. I'll still be able to see it. You guys won't. And we'll just start. We'll spend a moment here and look through how we might approach this. So I think the first thing that probably makes sense here, we can do kind of what we did with items. This is philosophically fairly similar to items. And there is, like, what we made here is an item class, it's an abstract class, and then we derived a couple of things from it. This cake one we happened to throw in as a freebie. The book did not demand that we made a cake, but our gear is going to be similar. There's going to be, we're going to have a couple of different things. Each of these different things are going to have a name. They won't have like a use method, so we'll have to think that through. And maybe that's the best place to start. There's a lot of moving parts here because we've got this notion of like defining these equipable gear things, but there's also a little more to it because we need they need to be able to provide an attack, and we need the ability in each of the two different player implementations that we have. Each of those need the option to pick a gear based attack instead of just the standard attack. So I think the first thing we're going to do here is we're just going to come in here and say add new item. We're going to kind of like we did with items. I think it makes sense to shift to put this stuff shift the stuff into a separate file. And I'm going to delete all of this and we'll just start from nothing. Public. Let's do kind of what we did before. Abstract class gear. And we'll have public string name. And then this needs to be able to supply an attack. So we already have this. Like if we go look at the, not the player, but like the character class, these have a standard attack. So we're going to just do something very similar to this, just for gear. Now we might make a bunch more changes to this. I don't know that we've found out, this is the final version, but I think this gives us a starting point. And for what we're doing right now, that is probably all we really need to do. And with that in there, then okay, hang on, sorry. Let's see, where was I? Yeah. So at this point, like I said, I don't know. I don't know that this is the final version, but I think it's enough to go on for now. So we know we're going to have a couple of different types of gear. So we know public class, the sword is gear. I'm going to undo this. This is usually easier to just generate it. Click on this, implement abstract class. So this is going to be sword. We'll just give it that name. And then this attack, I call the standard attack. We don't want that to be called standard attack, but this is just the attack that's provided by the gear. So see, we've already made a change to gear, but that's because we copy pasted instead of thinking it through from scratch. So this will have a new, so we haven't, like, we need to define a new, where are our attacks? Here's our attacks. We've got unraveling, and we've got bone crunch, and we've got punch. So we've got 3 attacks, and we're gonna need 2 more for this. The sword has a slash attack. The dagger has a stab attack. And let's see, slash deals 2 damage reliably. Stab deals one point of damage reliably. So we can just come in here. This has been our collection of just random attacks. So this is slash. So this just deals 2 damage all the time. And interestingly, the stab attack is like it functions the same as this punch attack. It does the same amount of damage. But it just has a different name. And I think that's probably okay, especially given how we've set this up. We talked in one of the earlier videos about we could have instead of having a new class for each of these, we could just have a single class that you just apply a name and a number. Or in some of these cases, it might be a little more complicated if we wanted to do that, because we would somehow be able to need to be able to convey this like random damage element. But we could do that if we wanted. As it stands, I'm okay with it having these be specific classes. I don't know that that other approach is bad either, but anyway. So now let's come back here. This is going to be. I'm actually going to do it this way. I'm gonna, rather than making a new one each time we call it, I'm gonna say I'm just gonna make a get only property and just initialize it to new / attack. And similarly, we're going to have a dagger. Something like that. So we've got 2 types of gear, and that's a pretty good start. So we've kind of defined a lot of the basic classes that we need for this stuff. And now I think we are ready to start to figure out how to apply this gear to our characters. So we're going to jump over to this characters class. I think this base class right here is probably the place to put this. One thing that I think is notable is the way we're going to do this. Players can have exactly one piece, like one piece of gear equipped. You could imagine like extending this out to something where there's like slots for gear, where there's like a helmet slot and like a chest slot and arms, or hands, like things that you're holding, or like armor, or like, yeah, I mean, like Minecraft has left and right hands and head and body and legs, and I think they got like feet that are different from legs. I'm trying to remember. But like you can imagine having that type of thing where there's different types of gear that can be applied in different ways. And we're going to keep that super simple and just have a single slot for gear. But so we'll just come in here and just say maybe this is public. And I don't think anybody needs to be able to override this necessarily, because we actually expect this to not be something that's just like an innate part of the derived character classes, but something that can just be set. So as long as we have, so what I think we'll do here is we won't make it abstract. We'll just have gear, and it may be null. We're gonna express that there. So, and we'll just call it gear, and it can be get or set, and so it'll default to no gear. It's empty, and then. Yeah, and then that's it. Now, I would say like the way the description here is the true programmer, this character ought to start with a sword, and a lot of the skeletons ended up with equipped gear in the first place as well. So we could in here we could do something like gear equals new sword. Like we could do that, and then any instance of true programmer will always start with a new sword. That I don't think would be bad, but I think it makes more sense in my mind to just like let's just set that up at the beginning, which should be in our program.cs. So I'm just gonna in here we'll just say gear equals new sword. Soured. And then what else did it say? It said skeletons. This first skeleton should have a dagger. And then it said the other stuff, the second round with these two skeletons, they should have they should have two daggers, but they shouldn't start with them. So now we need to, so that introduces another concept, and that is that a party should have, in addition to a list of items, they should have a list of gear. So if we do that, maybe what we'll do is we'll just initialize this to a new empty list. And so what in the case that we're dealing with right now, we need to be able to like give the party specific gear. And so one of two things needs to happen. Either we need to pass in the starting items, the starting gear like we've got here, or we need to, so we could just kind of copy that pattern and just do, it's maybe instead of this, we could just copy that and just have like another enumerable of gear. I am starting to wonder, like I think I would almost prefer to, I hesitate to do this a little bit because it gives people a lot of ability to like just totally like trash the whole thing, replace it with an empty list, for example. But at the same time, this approach where I've got a getter and setter, and maybe I can solve that. I can make this in a init. Init is it's like a getter. Sorry, it's like a setter. Only it is only useful at construction time. So actually, I think that's probably about what I'm looking for here. And now if I come back to here, I ought to be able to. So after, let's see, where is the end? So the part there's a lot going on right here, and I think I'm gonna do what we had there and wrap this a little bit. I'll leave that all on one line. And oops, got that wrong. I kind of want this matching curly brace to, there we go. I like having them lined up like that. And same with this. There's a lot, this is messy. There's a lot going on here. Just kind of constructing all these objects and just like building it out. But hopefully you can kind of keep track of what's going on there, because I need to add in right here. I need to add in gear equals new list of gear, new dagger, new dagger. So we'll throw in two daggers for those guys. I'm just trying to figure out the best way to wrap all this, because so this still makes sense. Anyway, there's that. I do, like I said, I kind of wonder about, we've got two different paradigms going on here where we've done one thing with the items and a different thing with the gear. And maybe it's worth making those all the same. In fact, maybe it makes sense. Like, what if we, I kind of want to go down this path and just pursue it and see where it goes. If we said we're going to do the same pattern for all of these, I think that code that we were just looking at will look cleaner. And it'll be easier, I think, for us to understand, what it's doing. And so we're going to, let's see, listed, not character, list of item. So I'm going to remove that, and I'm going to remove this. Actually, then I can just remove all of that because I don't need a constructor if it just looks like that. And now I have to come over here and do this, and I can say new party and say characters equals new list of character, new true programmer. And then the comma, new items equals new list of item. And then all of these. And I could put them all on one line here. Like that. At any rate, I'm already liking this better because even if I do choose to put them on separate lines, like now, like I got curly braces, like my constructor had no parameters, and that meant that I can leave off the parentheses here and just do the object initializer syntax. So I like that structure whether I wrap it or not. There's like the indentation is a whole lot easier to make sense of. So I think I'm liking this so far. And let's keep going. We got all these monster parties to deal with because these had kind of a similar issue. Instead of characters equals new skeleton, new list of skeleton, new list of character. Sorry, I'm getting character and then new skeleton gear equals new dagger. So this style where I've got like the curly braces like this object initializer syntax almost lets me like there's like a structure to it like you're used to, like if statements and while loops and method calls and classes and all that stuff. Doing like this object initializer syntax is kind of convenient in that it allows us to like build up like an object structure using similar syntax. Like I said, I've got these like all on one line, but you can see what thing lives inside of what other thing if depending on how you wrap these curly braces. And these are all just like this is all just defining a really big complicated object really made up of parts. The party array is made up of many parties. Each party is made up of, it's got characters and items, and inside of that it's got characters which they might have gear and other things. So I don't want to wrap all those things. I kind of liked it the way it was here because these lines aren't crazy long. And so let's use the horizontal space since we've got it. Let's see. So the first party is supposed to have a skeleton with equipped dagger, and then the potion from before. This one is supposed to have two skeletons. And then the same same potion as before. But then the gear, for gear, it should have a new list of gear. New dagger. New dagger. Oh, we had that. They used to have a cake too. New cake. And then last but not least, I'm going to copy this structure here. So a potion, not a cake, and no gear, which actually means we can delete all of that, and no skeletons, but a new uncoded one. Okay. I like this structure way better than what we had before. It was worth a try. I was trying to think if it was going to be able to infer the type of list of character from here, and I think if I did, maybe that. So I can't leave both out, but I can do it either way, and that kind of reduces some of the clutter here as well. It's inferring the type from this. Because otherwise, this if it were inferring it from its contents, it would be inferring I don't know what it'd be inferring, but it'd be a list of daggers or an array of daggers or something. So I do kind of like that short version. So I'm gonna leave it that way. The list of whatever isn't adding a whole lot of value here. So it seems like a good opportunity to shorten it. Okay. Yeah, to me this looks a whole lot better than it did before, so I'm okay with that. The choice that we made over here in party, wherever that is. Party. To do this like this with these init. So the only thing I don't like with this is this requires the specific list type, and it does leave open this potential for somebody to do something like new list of character or something. Could do exactly what I was doing before. New skeleton, right? Something simple like that, and then just saying characters equals characters, and then saying down here characters equals characters, and that works. The problem is this. That's in the battle class. The problem is this is literally just using the exact same instance, which means now we have two parties that are honestly inadvertently using the same set of characters, and that means that when this skeleton gets beaten in the first battle, that list will have been emptied out, and when we get to the second battle, the second party that we're fighting, it'll already be gone, which isn't what we're really looking for. So there's a little bit of a danger there, and I do think that if we like, this is an auto property right now, and maybe we could manage a little bit of that by like not having it be an auto property, but having like an actual backing field, and I don't know, doing some stuff to like make a separate list, even though we're setting a list here. That doesn't have to be the main storage that we actually use behind the scenes. At the same time, I don't know if I want to worry about that too much right now. I think like for right now, I think it's easy enough for me to remember that let's just not do that. Give every party their own unique characters, their own unique items, their own unique gear. Okay, so we've built out a lot of this infrastructure. We now we've defined gear. We've made the types of gear that we need. We've defined the types of attacks we need. We've set up all of our characters and the parties with the gear that they're supposed to have to start. We need the things that we still have left to do are we need the players to have the option to pick that attack that came from the equipped gear. And then we need the ability for them to equip gear. So let's go to console player. And let's see. So right here, that's funny. This comment is out of date. The joys of comments. Because rest is way down here. I'm going to move that comment down here since I'm seeing it. So we have this right here is the thing that says add options for all for using the standard attack on all on each opponent. And just to refresh your memory, we do not need to actually supply like the way the challenge is described, you don't need to support being able to choose a target. We put that in there, and we're going to keep going down that path. But you don't need to do that. We could have just. Oh wait, no, we didn't. We are just target 0. We did mess around with that, but that was I had forgotten about that. Anyway, so we are just picking one. So this comment that I just added in is not correct. Again, the joys of comments. Comments serve an important purpose. They give you the ability to add in extra information that can't possibly be conveyed with code. But the code is the actual truth. It is easy for comments to be out of sync. So you want to make sure the code is as understandable as possible without comments, and then strategically add comments to help you remember the important things. So add standard attack. What I'm going to do is, well, so if this has the same initial condition, like there must be a target to attack, or there must be a target to attack, or there's no point in adding in the attacks. So we're going to put the most obvious, that kind of the recommended option first. And we are going to right here say, so this first one here is going to be our gear based attack. So if the character dot gear is not null, then we'll use character dot gear dot attack. I'm trying to think what the best way to like this is so this is the gear name here would be like sword, and this attack is so it maybe like maybe what we want is like use sword to attack, something like that. So this would be like use sword to slash, or use dagger to stab, or something like that. Maybe that's the so the gear name goes here, and the attack that the gear provides goes here, and then we want to make sure that we use the pass in the gear attack, and again we'll target just that first one. So that actually should give us enough here to run this, and as long as we use human players. Let's do human versus human. So what use sword to, oh dang it. Use sword to parentheses slash. I want to get rid of those parentheses. I didn't see those in there. I kind of want to, as I'm seeing that, I kind of like the use sword to slash and then just like punch. So maybe we'll get rid of this at this point, and that. We'll just use at this point we don't need the string interpolation. So we'll just say there. Yeah, so use dagger to stab, bone crunch. And now if I do this, so let's see, this is supposed to deliver 1 point of damage reliably. What did it do? Skeleton use stab. It dealt 1 damage. Let's make sure we can still use our other one. Bone crunch is 50-50 chance of dealing nothing, so that's correct. And now this guy, Tog, can use punch, which guarantees 1 damage, which is what we want. Wave has been defeated. Okay. So generally speaking, it seems like we're making progress here. All right, I just made the font a little bigger in here, so it's a little easier to see. Okay. So I think that's working. And the next step is to go to the computer AI and allow it to choose an attack. So we do want these potions to happen first. And this says there's nobody to attack, then rest. But what we'll do here is we will say, so right here, if we have a gear-based attack, we want to use it. So if character dot gear does not equal null, so if we have gear, return new attack action, character, and the attack provided by the gear, and that same target. Otherwise, return the attack action. So we pick a target, and then if we have gear, we'll prefer that. Otherwise, we'll just use our standard attack. Most of the time, that's going to, all the things like the sword is a better attack than the punch, and the dagger with the stab is a better attack than bone crunch. So now we ought to be able to run this again and run. We'll do computer versus computer and let it just go nuts. So this should be using slash, which it looks like it did, and it should be using stab. So it looks like it is picking that. Let's let this keep going. Here, I just want to make sure that these guys are using bone crunch, which is all they've got. They do have gear. They just don't have it equipped, so they can't use that. So they're using bone crunch, which is correct. So now the last real big piece here is that we need to define a new action type, and that is to equip gear. So we'll come over here to actions, and we've had this use item, this attack action, this rest action, some blank lines, and we will add in public class equip gear action. And let's see what, I think this is going to be a lot like this use item. And so, because we're going to need the party, we're going to need the gear, we're going to need the character that's equipping it. So I'm gonna steal all this code here, and then we'll modify it. But it won't be that. So that gives us the information. Like I said, we've been going as we've been making these actions. They're like these spring-loaded things. They're these latent things. They don't run yet, but they're ready to go with just the slightest little, well, in this case, the slightest little call to perform. So by performing an action, it'll just run off and go do whatever the heck I'm supposed to do. The system that's using these actions has no clue what they're gonna do. They're just set up to I don't know what's going to do, but just whatever it is, run it. That's what they'll do. So this equip gear action, we'll say character name equipped. I can spell this right. Equipped gear.name. We could say something in here like character.name can now use whatever the attack is that they just got from it. That might be kind of fun. Let's do that. Can now use gear.name. The other thing while we're in here is maybe we should add some color here. How does yellow sound? So I made this Uber console that is defined in here. It's just got a couple of little extra things, including a right line with color. So anytime I'm doing anything super fancy with the console window, then I'll do that. Although there's a bunch of code in here too, like this, that doesn't do that. So in this case, what we want to do is we want to say character dot gear equals the gear that we're getting. And that's pretty much it. Like that's the main thing, other than we need to, there's a reason we had the party that owns the gear dot remove the gear. So we shift it, we pull it out of that list, the gear list for the party, and put it into here. And that, like, the other part of this is if this character already had gear equipped, we should shift that back the other way. So let's do let's see, gear previous equals character.gear, which might be null. There may be nothing there, and that's okay. And then if previous is not null, party that owns the gear dot add previous. So we'll swap it out. So there's, yeah. whatever they had before, we give it back to the party, which means somebody could, by equipping new gear, they could leave behind something else, and a different party member could pick that up. In this particular case, there isn't like there's, I don't know, there's no, well, I don't know, that could happen. We do have, if we jump back over to program.cs, there's this second party here. There's 2 skeletons and 2 daggers. So the first skeleton could pick up the dagger. The second one could by, I mean, because it's random, it doesn't do it every time. Actually, we didn't put that in. It's supposed to only do it 50% of the time. Oh, well, that's okay. We haven't given characters the ability to equip gear yet. We're still working on that. Okay. Anyway, there is the possibility that the skeleton could pick up this dagger. The skeleton could fail to pick up the second dagger, and this skeleton could say, "Oh, I want to pick up a dagger," and then drop the first one, and then this guy could pick up that one. They happen to be both daggers, so they're not like it's not going to change much, but there is a possibility here. Okay, so now that is the last major piece here is the players need the ability to equip gear that isn't equipped. So I'm going to come here, and we're going to use a potion. We're going to use a potion if we need it, and if we didn't need it, then we're going to say list of gear equals battle dot find gear for a character. So we're just going to kind of copy the same pattern as we had up here. I'm not going to worry about like filtering to a specific type. Any gear is better than no gear. But again, this is another one of those areas you could imagine going nuts, like thinking through, like, well, what, like, maybe I want gear that is offensive and gear that is defensive, armor instead of a sword, and like, does that make a difference? And so maybe maybe I am feeling like I want to go for a stronger attack, and so I should find gear that provides an attack versus one that provides some sort of defensive thing. Right now, all of our gear just provides an attack, so there's a lot more we could do here, as is the case. We're gonna hold it back and not do everything, but this type of pattern here, find gear for character, and then we've got to go make that method. So we'll just throw it in right here. Public list of gear, find gear for character. They should only be able to get return. That actually, you know what? I like let's change these to expression bodies. It's shorter, and I like it better. All these are so short. What did I just do? I don't want to extract a base class. These have gotten more complicated, so maybe we'll leave those alone, but I like the shortness of those. Now, where were we? Control minus to go back. Find gear for character. So now we have the gear. So what we want to do is something like this. If character.gear is null, so only if we don't have gear do we want to look for gear. So if gear dot any, so if there is some, so now we said the character does not currently have any gear equipped, and there is gear to be equipped, then we're going to say return new equip gear action. The character is this character. The gear is gear dot. Like I said, we could get smarter about this, but let's just keep it simple. Just grab the first one, and then the party is battle dot find get. Let's see, battle dot get party for the character. That's a convenience method. we could say battle dot parties, battle dot heroes dot characters dot contains this character, then it's that. Otherwise, it's the other one. But that's it. So it's a convenience method that just makes writing other code easier, and that's a pretty good example of it. So if we don't have gear, and if there's gear available, then the action we want to take is to equip that gear. One thing that we could do here to shorten this up is we could say find gear for dot single, which will give us just a single thing. But really what we want is not just single, but single or default in case there's none. And in this case, the default will be null. So we better make that null. So now this will be single or default. And now we can just say if gear does not equal null, equip that thing. So again, we're not being very smart about it. We're just saying any equipment is better than no equipment. Let's just get it equipped. And now our AI. So if we don't have gear, and if we can find something, anything, then we're going to equip it. Otherwise, we'll either fall out of here or we'll just skip over that and we'll come down here and just move on to an attack. So let's add a comment. Equip gear if we don't have anything equipped, and if there is something to equip. Now, what's to stop a player from just coming in here and saying, new sword? Nothing. Nothing at all. The one thing we could potentially do, if we really wanted to, is instead of that, we could do that, but we could have this thing enforce it right here. Like, we could ensure that if the party that owns the gear, if its collection of gear doesn't contain it, then we do something about it. We don't equip it, and I don't know that, but that is a programming bug, not a user bug. So I'm gonna not worry about that too much. All bugs are programming bugs. I said a user bug, but that it might be user error. All right. So having said that, like I said, it would be nice to, I don't know. It's nice when like the objects and the methods and the constructors and things like that they have help you do the right thing and not make mistakes. And in this case, it's like I said, it does leave open this possibility that me 6 months from now, or anybody else who's just in this code, might not realize that they're supposed to like grab the gear from an existing pool. Like in theory, this code doesn't prevent us right now from just going and grabbing the gear of the other party and just snatching it and just equipping it. At any rate, that's something that's worth considering. Is there a different design that ensures that people who maybe don't understand all the parts of the code can still like get it right rather than getting it wrong? But I think I'm happy enough with this approach. I don't I think I would at least would feel like if I just said new sword, that's like, well, that's clearly just like summoning it out of thin air, which actually might be exactly what we want, right? Like maybe we want the ability to summon a sword. So this allows for that possibility at least, even though that is definitely not what I'm trying to accomplish right here. Okay, so let's see. We've managed to make the computer AI player work, and now we need here the ability to equip any gear that we've got. So we'll take a similar approach to doing items. So add the add options for using items. And we want basically something similar to that for gear. So I'm just going to copy and paste. Again, slightly dangerous action, but add options for equipping gear. These don't have a status, so we're okay there. And here we just say equip gear action. So one thing we haven't done is we haven't provided a way for people to just unequip gear. And I guess the nice thing about unequipping it is you could allow a different party member to use it. Right now, the gameplay benefits of that are very, very slim. I don't really see a scenario with the game we've got right this second. I don't see a scenario where that would be all that meaningful. But I can imagine scenarios where, yeah, it'd be kind of nice to have the option of dropping gear. So we're not going to worry about that right now, but that is something that probably wouldn't even be that hard to add in if we wanted to. And now I think we've got a working. I think now we can run this and we should be able to equip gear. Let's give that a go. So I do want, let's run human versus computer so we can see both sides of this. Oh, you know what? Even though this says let's use the true programmer should start with a sword. Let's start simple here and okay. So so use sword, use dagger. Oh, use. That's a mistake. I copied too much. Again, the dangers of I even said that as I was doing it. Okay. So now it'll say equip sword, equip dagger, use cake, use potion, use potion, use potion. And so now let's do use sword. That skeleton already had a dagger. And now it's, yeah, so I use the dagger to stab, and now I've got, so I can equip the dagger, use sword to slash or punch, you equip dagger. I'm gonna do that and make sure we swap out the sword. And the skeleton stabbed, and yeah, now I can equip sword or I can use dagger to stab. So well, let's get our good equipment. We'll make more progress if we do. And it used a potion. The skeleton used a potion. Oh no. Oh yeah. Okay. Invalid operation exception. The second I saw this, I knew I don't want singular default. That this would assume singular default with no parameters in here says I'm expecting exactly one item in the collection or 0, in which case we'll get the default. I didn't want singular default. I wanted first or default. With that change, I should be able to keep running and this should keep going. All right, let's see. Look at that. Skeleton equipped dagger. Skeleton can now stab with dagger. Skeleton equipped dagger. Skeleton can now stab with dagger. That's exactly what we wanted, except we actually wanted that to be not all the time. What was it? 50% of the time. So let's come right in here and do kind of like what we had right here. If we have no gear, well, let's put it right here. And there, 50%. So if gear is not null and random chance is less than 50, equip gear. Oops. Let's give that a go. Keep forgetting it's going to use a potion there, or that it might use a potion. So it looks like we had, this first skeleton just used bone crunch. The second one equipped a dagger. So that means the other skeleton still could pick up the dagger, and maybe it will this time. Nope. Let's see. The first one used a potion, and the second one stabbed. And now it picked up a dagger, and then the second one used stab. So now they're both using the fancy stuff. Okay, so the basic stuff is all done. The one thing that it calls out is, let's see, we want, I put that in battle. This right here, it'd be nice if this included the equipment. So I think what we're gonna do here is I'm gonna pull this out. Character description, and then oops, I'm gonna put string character description equals hero.name. But I'm gonna do more than that. I'm gonna do hero name, and then some square brackets, and then hero gear dot name. This isn't quite right, because this will have the little square brackets all the time. And it might, if it's null, it might actually say null. I'm actually kind of expecting that. Oh, it didn't. No, I guess it null turn. If it's got a string in there, I guess it just leaves it empty. So that's not really what we want, though. What we do want is, let's start with the hero name, and then if hero.gear does not equal null, hero.gear.name. And I think I want a space on the beginning of that. Equip sword. There, now it shows that I've got a sword equipped. I need to do the same thing over here because this guy has a dagger. And so, I mean, it's the same idea. We'll just take this code here. In this case, it's monster. And then here we'll do character description. Oh, you know what? We actually maybe want this at the front of it, don't we? Or do we want it at the end? I like it this like the way that's being drawn right now, there's like the symmetry. Like this is all kind of on the left and this is on the right. I guess there's not total symmetry because like this comes after. I don't know. That I think I was gonna say maybe we want to stick that in front, but I think I'm okay with it just being on the back. So let's see. Use the sword, but now we've got the dagger. So now Tog's got the sword. These skeletons had nothing, but we'll see that like this guy equipped a dagger. That guy use a potion again? He did. This feels like last time. Only he still didn't equip. Maybe we'll eat cake and let him equip his dagger. There he goes. Now we'll use the sword. Finish him off. Another thing that might be nice here would be maybe something like right here before we do this, it might be nice to have something like console.write line. I don't know. Should we be able to see the inventory of our opponent? Because right now we don't necessarily know. I don't know. Like I guess this is all strictly speaking, knowing what they've got equipped is or knowing what equipment is in their inventory. It's maybe something they don't need to know. When it comes up in the list, we can definitely see then like what do I have in my pockets? What can I do? Until then, though, maybe we don't. I was gonna say we could come in here and do something like available gear, and then like include it all in here. We could do that, but I'm not. That's not necessary. All right, I think with that we are done with this challenge. So we've done. Like I said, this is a pretty big one. The stuff we've done is we defined gear. We made two different types of gear that required us to make a couple new attacks. We changed the party class to include gear as well. Where is that? So now it's got gear. We actually did a bunch of kind of like refactoring here so that our main method over here could look cleaner than it was. So that was another big thing we did. And then we defined a new equip gear action. So that's a new thing that things can do. And we made both our console player have the option to. We made the console player and the computer AI player both have the option to equip gear and to use an attack provided by gear. And that's right now, that's all gear does. There's no, all pieces of gear will always provide an attack and nothing else. You could, again, this is one of those challenges that I think when you get into it, you will easily, it might get your mind going and saying, well, what if it was this, what if that? And there's just so many possibilities here. Again, that's why I like this final battle challenge, is that it provides you with just a lot of pathways that you could go down. But anyway, so gear is now in the game, and we are done with this challenge. So thanks for joining me, and I will see you guys next time.